The left is in a state of meltdown still over Elon Musk taking over Twitter, according to CNBC.com. Musk is expected to serve as temporary CEO of Twitter for a few months after he completes his $44 billion takeover of the social media company, according to CNBC's David Faber. An SEC filing on Thursday revealed that Musk had secured approximately $7.14 billion in equity commitments from friends and other investors to buy Twitter. Faber said Musk handpicked the investors. Commitments range from $1 billion from Larry Ellison of Oracle to $5 million from Honeycomb Asset Management, which invested in SpaceX. Apparently, Jack Dorsey may back the play, and Musk is talking to him about the possibility of contributing shares immediately or before the closing of the merger, which is a revenge play by Jack Dorsey, ironically, against people like Parag Agrawal, the current Twitter CEO. So Agrawal took over from Dorsey last November and started leading the company in a direction that Dorsey didn't particularly like, and Dorsey has now been cheering Musk on from the sidelines. Last month, Reuters reported that Musk had lined up a new CEO for Twitter, citing a source familiar with the matter. Agrawal told employees during a company-wide town hall meeting last month the future of Twitter was uncertain. He said, once the deal closes, we don't know which direction the platform will go. Musk told investors he felt Twitter's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization margin was too low, and the company has too many engineers not doing enough. He also pledged to make the company a magnet for talent. Shares of Twitter rose 2.8% on Thursday. Their stock slid more than 8% amid a broader market sell-off. So that really has nothing to do with Musk, and it has much more to do with the tech sell-off that's been happening. But Musk taking over Twitter is freaking these people out because Musk has very clear views on the idea that speech is supposed to be broader, not narrower on platforms like Twitter. So the New York Times has now decided to put out yet another hit piece on Elon Musk. They put out this inane tweet about how Elon Musk's childhood was basically the reason why he is the way that he is. The headline of this piece by John Elegant and Lindsay Schutel is, quote, Elon Musk left a South Africa that was rife with misinformation and white privilege. Now, the idea here is that, of course, this means that he is covertly a racist and that he grew up in an era of misinformation, and therefore he's very fond of racist misinformation. And this is the New York Times' take. Elon Musk grew up in South Africa, therefore he should never be allowed to have any association with any company that says anything about free speech because, of course, he grew up in South Africa. The apartheid era created all-white enclaves littered with anti-black government propaganda and sheltered from the atrocities of apartheid. Okay, what does that have to do with Elon Musk? Well, as it turns out in the story, not much, because it turns out that Musk's family was rabidly anti-apartheid. That's not what you get from the headline. That's not what you get from the New York Times tweet. Here is the New York Times story. Again, these hit pieces. So they came out with a 3-part hit piece on Tucker Carlson. And basically what the hit piece amounted to was we disagree with Tucker Carlson and don't like him because he's a big, mad, mean man who says mean things we don't like. That was the effect of the piece. He is a white supremacist because white supremacy is anything I don't like. That is essentially the way that the left likes to argue about these sorts of things. And now they're doing the same thing with Elon Musk. So here is what the New York Times piece says. Quote, Elon Musk's impending takeover of Twitter has many people probing his public statements and his past for clues about how he will shape one of the world's most influential public platforms. But Mr. Musk, best known for owning the companies Tesla and SpaceX, has not talked much in public about a significant swath of the past, how growing up as a white person, under the racist apartheid system in South Africa may have shaped him. See, he won't even talk about how he's a racist, which means he's definitely a racist because he came from a racist country. And sure, we have no evidence that he backed any of the racism in that country, but he's not talking about why he's a racist, which means he's a racist. It's telling. White kids were insulated from the harsh reality of it, says Terrence Benet, who is white and graduated with Mr. Musk from Pretoria Boys High School in 1988. Interviews with relatives and former classmates reveal an upbringing in elite, segregated white communities that were littered with anti-black government propaganda and detached from the atrocities that white political leaders inflicted on the black majority. What exactly does that have to do with Musk, who is now 50? As you will see, nothing. It's one of the most botched and ridiculous hit pieces I've ever seen. Mr. Musk, 50, grew up in the economic hub of Johannesburg, the executive capital of Pretoria, and the coastal city of Durban. His suburban communities were largely shrouded in misinformation. Newspapers sometimes arrived on doorsteps with whole sections blacked out. Nightly news bulletins ended with the national anthem and an image of the national flag flapping as the names of white young men who were killed fighting for the government scrolled on the screen. We really were clueless as white South African teenagers, really clueless, said Melanie Cheery, a classmate of Mr. Musk's during the 2 years he spent at Bryanston High School in the northern suburbs of Johannesburg, where black families were rarely seen, other than in service of white families living in palatial homes. Mr. Musk left South Africa shortly after graduation at 17 to go to college in Canada, barely ever looking back. He did not respond to emails requesting comments about his childhood. Mr. Musk has heralded his purchase of Twitter as a victory for free speech, having criticized the platform for removing posts and banning users. It's unclear what role his childhood, coming up in a time and place in which there was hardly a free exchange of ideas and where government misinformation was used to demonize black South Africans, may have played in that decision. So I'm confused. So Elon Musk doesn't like restrictions on speech, and you're arguing he doesn't like restrictions on speech because he loved, as a kid, restrictions on speech in South Africa. Explain. You can't. This is just the equivalent of Mitt Romney cut a kid's hair when he was in 8th grade or something. Classmates at 2 high schools he attended described him as a loner with no close friends. None offered recollection of things he said or did that revealed his views on politics at the time. But black schoolmates recall he did spend time with black friends. So here's what we know about him. He grew up in apartheid South Africa and he had black friends. I'm missing the part where this makes him bad. And it's inappropriate for him to be the owner of Twitter now. We'll get to more of this in a second. Again, the New York Times, just what a garbage newspaper. What a smoking heap of crap the New York Times is, truly. Okay, so this New York Times hit piece continues. Mr. Musk's father, Errol Musk, said in an interview with the New York Times that Elon, his brother and sister, were aware from a young age there was something wrong with the apartheid system. Errol, who was elected to the Pretoria City Council in 1972, said they would ask him about the laws prohibiting black people from patronizing restaurants, movie theaters, and beaches. They had to make calculations when they were going out with non-white friends about what they could safely do, he said. As far as being sheltered from it, that's nonsense. They were confronted by it every day, recalled Errol, who said he belonged to the anti-apartheid Progressive Party. He added they didn't like it. So let's get this right. Elon Musk had black friends. His father was an elected member of the city council who was anti-apartheid. But because Elon Musk grew up in Africa, South Africa, this means that he is a covert racist. Still, says the New York Times, Errol offered a description of their lives that underscored how removed they were from the country's violent reality. They got along well with black people, he said, pointing to his children's good relationship with their domestic staff, and he described life in South Africa during apartheid as being mostly better and safer than it is now. Now, apartheid was a great evil. Also, South Africa is a terrible place to live. South Africa is not a pleasant place to live for people who are white or people who are black or anybody in between right now. The living standards are really, really low in South Africa. The crime is extraordinarily high in South Africa. Describing South Africa right now as a bad place to live does not make you a racist. It makes you a person who knows that reality exists. You don't have to be pro-apartheid to say that South Africa right now is really a difficult place to live for everyone, black, white, and in between. So if you say that, apparently, though, this means you're a racist. According to a biography of Mr. Musk, written by Ashley Vance, Mr. Musk said he did not want to partake in South Africa's mandatory military service because it would have forced him to participate in apartheid. And that may have contributed to his decision to leave South Africa shortly after high school. So not only is Musk not a racist, he deliberately left the country to avoid being drafted by a government that was participating in apartheid. And this means that he's a racist. The New York Times, wow, they're bad at this. According to the New York Times, Pretoria boys had a socially progressive undercurrent. The school's headmaster had participated in freedom struggle activities. Some students would travel to anti-apartheid gatherings. I'm pretty confident in saying that at a place like Pretoria Boys High, you were exposed to progressive ideas even if you didn't adopt them, said Mr. Benet, 51, who does policy work for public health and social welfare organizations. Yet none of them experienced the beatings and gunshots of state security forces like the black children who were fighting for basic rights in township schools. And many students bought into government propaganda, said Mr. Benet. Okay, so hold up a second. So because Elon Musk was not shot like a black person during apartheid, this means he's a racist now. So just to get this straight, if you were a white person who opposed segregation in the American South and you weren't shot by the cops in the same way that a black person was, this means that you were apparently a racist. It's just amazing. So then they cite a bunch of students who are not Musk. They quote Benet talking about what students said in racist ways, but at no point does he actually say anything that Musk says. Mr. Musk became friends with a cousin of a person named Net Shituka, Asher Mashudu, according to Mr. Mashudu's brother, Nyadzani Ranrashi. At one time at lunch, a white student used an anti-black slur. Musk chided the student. And so basically every story in here is about Musk not being a racist and being anti-racist. And apparently that's not good enough for the New York Times. Errol Musk, who has been estranged from Elon, said he believed apartheid taught his son not to discriminate. But Elon's electric car company, Tesla, has faced serious accusations of racism. Oh, it's so tiresome. It's so unbelievably tiresome. So they can't find anything on him. So they dig up nothing and then play it as though it was something. Mr. Binet then is quoted saying, quote, I think that Musk's ideas about free speech are very classic liberal and not nuanced. As a white student coming up in the placid Johannesburg suburbs, he never saw the suffering of his black counterparts. That changed when he did his government-mandated military service. This is according to Andrew Panzera. Okay, this is a different guy, not Musk. So now they quote everybody who is not Musk. It's just unbelievable. And Musk is bad. Musk must be stopped. Amazing. How's this for a title? Ben Shapiro Show subscriber destroys like button with clicks and logic. I'd watch that. Make it happen, gang.